Hello folks, how you all doing? Today we're talking about the unpleasant thought that our brains are rotting when we're using AI persistently. But it's okay, because this being a Mike Monday thing, we're going to look at the reality of the situation as far as we know it anyway. And then we're going to see what we can do with it, because obviously cognitive decline isn't something that we want to happen. It is a problem. So you may have seen this study from June, which was from MIT, which was talking about when they basically tested quite a few people, not very many, but a few people who were writing essays with AI, without AI, and then in sort of with both AI and without AI. So there was one completely, sort of generated but with AI, one without, and then they did various different brain scans to see how activating their brains were. And essentially the upshot of it was that those who were using AI completely weren't retaining, they couldn't remember what they'd written, and their brains weren't lighting up in the same way. That's the bottom line. But anyway, you can look it up. It's called Your Brain on GPT, Accumulation of Cognitive Debt When Using an AI Assistant for Essay Writing Task. I don't know why it's written like that, why there's no "an" there, or essay writing tasks. But anyway, that's the title of it, and you can look it up for yourself. Thing is, do we need a study to know the answer to the question, will persistent AI use lead to cognitive decline? Because if you think about how the human brain works, it is neuroplastic. It changes according to how you use it. I looked this up and from another study somewhere, and this is what it said. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the nervous system to change its activity by reorganizing its structure, functions, or connections in response to intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli. And obviously, extrinsic stimuli includes AI, obviously. So in other words, when you use your brain in a particular way for a particular skill or doing a particular thing, the connections, the physical connections within your brain will strengthen for that activity or skill. And this happens constantly. Your brain is constantly reconfiguring. This is how we learn things. And if you are, for example, a musician who has played an instrument, or maybe you've worked in a digital audio workstation, or you're a writer, or you're doing almost anything, you will notice when you do it more, it becomes easier and you get better at it. Who knew? That is your brain growing for those particular things. I'm sure you've heard about the study of London taxi drivers who literally a part of their brain is bigger related to the things that they need to remember in terms of remembering the map of London in their head. So your brain changes according to how you use it, and of course, how you don't use it. So if you're using it less to do certain things, then it will shrink in those areas. Okay. Now, obviously, the health of our brains is very serious. Whether you're young, we have 4 boys who are aged, about to be tomorrow, 8 and 15, or older like me. I'm 52. I mean, I'm seriously worried about my kids using ChatGPT to do everything. So I'm really encouraging them to use it in a different way than it's almost like in the way that ChatGPT wants you to use it. Right? And I'm worried for myself. I am noticing from AI use some worrying signs that I am experiencing some cognitive decline in some areas. For example, I used to use ChatGPT all the time to come up with as a thesaurus to remember words. I'm starting to notice I'm forgetting words quite a lot. So I've stopped doing that now. Unless I already have a word and I actually want to expand it or use a different word like I would usually use it as a thesaurus, I've stopped asking ChatGPT to do that. I'm now thinking of the word, right? And, it doesn't matter whether you're young or old, your brain is the tool, is the ultimate tool that you use to use every other tool, to decide what tool to use, to decide everything. That's why I've taken the approach with my other business, Make Music Your Life, helping musicians make more music and make better music and build businesses around it. It's always been a brain-based approach because your brain is the most important, or I mean, obviously your heart's important and your liver, but in terms of actually doing things and deciding to do things, be an agent in the world, to use the AI term, have agency in the world, your brain is the tool, right? So given all that, why Mike Monday, are you excited about using AI? Why are you doing it and not worried? Just for an example, here is my first Substack post where I actually talked about my experiences with AI in February 2025, at the end of February 2025. And I talked about the opposite of cognitive decline. I talked about the possibility of an intelligence explosion happening in the world, where people like me, normal, average people like me, I'm not sure normal is exactly the word I'd use, but you know what I mean. Normal, average people, not people who are, enormously successful or, geniuses, who are thought of being geniuses, nothing like that. Just normal, average people like me starting to be able to do things that they couldn't before. Starting to be able to change things for themselves and others in the way that they haven't before. Because I saw that happening almost immediately in myself and in the people that I was showing this stuff. So let's have a look at why I'm excited and worried at the same time. So if we go back to the definition that I shared of neuroplasticity, which is the ability of the nervous system, which obviously includes the brain, to change its activity by reorganizing its structure, functions, or connections in response to intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli. If we look at the in response to intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli, obviously the intrinsic stimuli or stimuli are your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your ideas, your motivation, etc., etc., etc. In terms of working with AI, the extrinsic thing is the AI. So ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, any other AI output. Yeah, the words or that it is spitting out at you, that is the extrinsic stimuli. And there are different ways of using AI which will have a different effect on your brain. And this, the answer oracle, AI as answer oracle, is the most common way that most people use AI as far as I am aware, right? And I think the reason for that is what I'm about to show you, which is, let's answer the question, if you use AI, when you use AI as an answer oracle, how hard does your brain work? Let's answer that question. So first of all, when you're asking it for information, so what is X? What is it? Or, essentially using AI as a Better Google, which is obviously often wrong as well. But anyway, let's a quicker Google, shall we say. Then we've got decisions. Should I do this? Should I do Y? Or should I do something else? Yeah. Asking the AI what decision to make. And then another example would be actions. Oh, AI, I want you to do Z for me. Yeah, so what is X? Information. What should I? Y? That's decisions. And do Z for me. That's actions. Obviously, in all of these cases, the AI says, no problem. I am your helpful assistant. And it does all these things happily. But how hard does your brain have to work in any of these situations? I mean, it has to read the output, if you actually do read the output and don't just skim through it because it gives you so much, right? So you have to read the output in terms of the information and decisions, but how much are you actually engaging your brain? How hard are you working it? Not very, right? That's when you start forgetting words, like I did. So, but that's not the only way to use AI. I don't even think it's necessarily the most helpful or useful because of cognitive decline, but also because it's often wrong. You might not be getting accurate information. In fact, you're often not. You might not be making better decisions. In fact, you're often not. The work that is being done, the actions that are being done by the AI might not be as good. In fact, they're often not. So not only are we encountering cognitive decline, the results are getting worse. But as I said, that's not the only way to use AI, because in another example, what I call the unreliable AI guide, let's go through this. And this is just an example. So you say to the AI, well, I really want to do A, whatever it might be. Could be something in coding, could be just anything, could be anything at all. So I've never done A. How does it work? And so the AI comes back to you and says, well, let me show you B. You have to know B first. You have to understand B. Okay, and then so it says do B, right? So then you try B, and then you come back to it. Hang on, sorry. So you try B, and you come back to it and say, well, B didn't work. And also, when you were telling me about B, you told me about C as well, and that I think you got that wrong. Right? And this is definitely the process that I have been engaged in doing this kind of unreliable AI guide work, right? So then you say that back to the AI, and it goes, oh yes, you're absolutely right. Sorry about that. That means that D might be the solution. Yeah, like because B didn't work, and I think I might, yeah, you're right, I might have got C wrong. D might be the solution here. So then you try that, and then you're like, oh, no, it wasn't D. But in trying to do this, in getting really frustrating and tearing the rest of my non-existent hair out, running out of hair to tear out, I now can do it. Yeah, I can actually do it. And then finally goes, well, the AI goes, well, great, what's next? Whenever you're ready, I'm here for you. So here, this incredibly frustrating situation where you're asking the AI how to do something, it's telling you how to do it, some of which is wrong, and then you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all the time, trying to figure out what is wrong, how it works. You are, I mean, this is some of the hardest work I have ever done. I've never used my brain so intensely as when I'm working with an AI like this. Doing something that I have no idea, like I've never been taught it. I don't even know where to begin. I'll tell you some of the things. I'll give you specific examples in a sec. Okay. So that's example number 2. So moving on to example number 3, let's think about the AI as a thinking partner. So not as an answer oracle, not as an unreliable guide, but as a thinking partner. This is, more about decisions and strategy. So you say, oh, I've got to make this difficult decision between P and O. Sorry, P and Q. That's wrong. Can't do my alphabet. Obviously, I've been asking the AI too much about the alphabet. So I must make a decision, a difficult decision between P and Q. And the AI comes back to you and says, well, what's making this decision difficult? And by the way, your average AI will not ask you this question. Right? They won't ask you questions. They'll just say, oh, no, do Q. It's a much better idea. Right? But this thinking partner thing is something that I'm designing into the AIs that I'm using. Right? So the AI says, well, what is making this decision difficult? And then you say, well, P doesn't work because of R, but then, S doesn't work because of T, and Q doesn't work because, etc., etc. So then after a little conversation, the AI might ask, well, what are some other options besides P and Q? And then through this conversation, you realize, well, hang on a minute. I just realized that it's not just about P and Q. There's U, V, W, X. There's a load of other options as well. And so the conversation goes on. The AI, oh, great. The AI says, what might happen if you, etc., etc., etc. So again, in this use of AI as a thinking partner, where you're actually getting it to ask questions rather than deliver solutions, you are upgrading your perspective. You're essentially using it a little bit like a coach. And as I said, an LLM that is trained as they are today won't do this automatically. You've got to design it. You've got to prompt it, or but you've got to make it into this kind of thinking partner. It's something that I've been working on in the Monday stack, is actually creating these kinds of minds. And, over on the Unreliable AI Guide side, I've been teaching or showing or encouraging my team to do this. And they've also started to go bold as well through tearing out their hair. But they are making progress and they're learning to do things they've never been able to do before. So this isn't just me. This isn't like, I'm not some kind of special person, some kind of it's not that. It is possible for anyone to do this. Well, almost anyone to do this. Yeah. So in this situation, given that we've thought through how hard your brain is working in these different AI, ways of using AI, what are likely to be, even without a study, right? We don't need studies are great. Yeah, I want studies. But even without the study, we don't need to wait for the study. What are likely to be the results for your brain? If you only use an AI as an answer oracle, you are going to be suffering from cognitive decline. I'm not certain about anything, but I'm as certain about this as I am about anything. And I do use, personally, AI as an answer oracle, but I don't do it very often. Yeah, I do it rarely. I know for things like, that kind of thing where you're watching a film or something and there's somebody and you're like, oh, who is that person? And you just ask, you ask an AI, who is that kind of thing. Yeah, it's not very important to me to be able to instantly recall random actors, right? So, but if you're just using AI as an answer oracle, or if your kids are, or if the people you know are, it's not going to go well. Yeah. If you're using an AI as an unreliable guide, you are going to be strengthening your brain. You're going to be learning new things, and that frustration, and also being able to see how the AI might be wrong, is through that error correcting, you're upgrading your ability to think through problems. And you're also learning the structure of how these things that you've never understood before, you've never been able to do before, how they work. It's a totally new way of learning. It's a totally different way of learning. It's a dynamic, active way of learning. It's almost the opposite of the industrial age rote learning thing, yeah, which actually doesn't work very well at all. It's a highly engaged form of learning. And then in the AI thinking partner case, because you're having these insights from going back and forth with this other entity, which is always on, never gets bored, is just 100% focused on your strategy or how you're thinking or what you want to do. Because you're having this back and forth, you will be experiencing growth. Okay. Now you might go, yeah, but Mike, where is the evidence for this? So I have some evidence from the way that I've been using AI in my business. And here's just some of the results recently. So in terms of the augmenting myself, doing things that I've never done before, in terms of sort of designing new things, maybe innovating new things, I wrote an academic paper, a white paper with Gemini, which I'll be honest with you, I haven't finished or released. And I'm telling myself it's because I've got way too much to do, and I'm not sure, I'm not sure how valuable it is. I've got other much more important things to do. But between you and me, it's because I'm terrified of releasing it. Okay, it's probably more like that. But anyway, I have written this academic paper, and the reason I'm terrified is because it's actually challenging a lot of the assumptions upon which the development of AI is based. And there is a huge, obviously, it's kind of ridiculous, a huge imposter syndrome aspect going on where I'm going, who am I to say this kind of thing and actually challenge these people who've been doing it all their lives? So that's probably why I haven't finished it, if I'm honest. Okay. But anyway, it did have huge value to me because in the course of doing that, I actually realized that there's a whole new way of working with AI, of actually changing the behavior of LLMs, which I've named cognitive engineering. I've spoken about it before. I'll let you know more about it in the future. But it's basically taking an entirely different approach, and I'm currently using it, which I'll tell you about in a second. And the theory is holding water at the moment. I did a podcast about it actually yesterday, which you can get from my Substack. I've also, this is highly speculative, but I've also thought through and actually designed an entire system for creating and distributing content that, I mean, as I said, it's highly speculative, so I don't want to overclaim here, but it could, if what I'm thinking is right, it could be the new SEO. And as I said, I'm not sure that that's actually going to happen, but it would be interesting to find out if it does. Now, all of this came about from doing the thinking partner thing. It's almost like going back to the beginning, from first principles and thinking through, all right, so if this is true and that is no longer the case and this remains, then what will happen and how will that work and what are the assumptions people are bringing into it? Because I'm kind of obsessed. 2 live streams ago, I'm kind of obsessed with how this wave of technology is similar and different to previous ones. So doing that kind of thinking, you can actually start to make some kind of guesses as to what might happen. Now, when I say what might happen, I'm not actually predicting the future. Right? I know the future, that's why I say the highly speculative future of content creation. This is a predicting the future thing, which is why I'm very shaky on it. However, this cognitive engineering thing, this I can test right now. Yeah. So that's really why I'm focused on the cognitive engineering more than the future of content creation. Because I think there's way too much prediction going on that then becomes, well, this is actually what is going to happen. Okay. In terms of actually building and creating something, automating things, I shut down, very scarily, my main moneymaker in my other business, in Make Music Your Life, which was a program called Make an Album with Mike. And I've launched this year 3 new income streams. I've created a whole new line of IP. I'm going to say I've created it. I've co-created it. So it's back and forth with the AI. It's all coming from me, but it's like a Socratic partner, if you like. Yeah. So a whole new line of IP. So the AI Genius Labs workshops, big group workshops, a small group workshop called the Genius Evolution Workshop, which I do. And I'm also developing a enterprise teams workshop around this whole area as well. I've also created this thing and I'm working on this thing called a knowledge forge, where I'm actually, and this is me really testing the future of content creation. Again, it's highly speculative, highly future based. So I'm not spending so much time on that, but essentially what it's about is taking my intellectual property, all of the things that I've done, and creating extremely AI optimized versions of it, which are easy for that AI to kind of read and process. This isn't just about creating blog posts with title, headings and bullet points. It's much more involved than that. Okay, so that's in the actual build area as a result of the thinking partner use of AI. And then in terms of the auditing, and testing and the validating area, the real world result kind of area, so far this year, compared to last year, I'm up 20% in terms of income, which is nice. And that's despite removing my biggest moneymaker and learning all these new things. Yeah. So I hope, it will actually go up by the end of the year. I've also created when I say a future-proof business strategy, what I mean is as future-proof as it can be, because I've kind of mapped out almost when I say every possible outcome, the most likely outcomes, and thought, okay, so what is going to remain true, or what is likely to remain true, and what is definitely going away. So there are certain things that you can see are going to go away. Obviously, in terms of, again, this is predicting the future. We do have to do a certain amount of prediction, but it's about knowing what is more likely and less likely. And obviously there are certain outcomes that could happen, like, I don't know, an AI explosion, sort of some kind of, super intelligence appears. There's no way that I'm going to be able to future-proof against something like that. So I don't even think, there's no point in even thinking about it. Okay, so I've created that. And also I've met leaders in tech, in finance, in travel, and in government to actually present, well, there's a number of different things I'm doing there, but essentially I'm talking to them to find out how they're using AI and then show them what I'm doing in AI to partially disseminate what I'm doing, but also to validate what I'm doing. It's been very useful because, me being me, one of the things that these people have often said is, great, Mike, but what is the actual thing? What's the end point of what you're doing? So it's really useful for me to actually test this with the world. Now, you have to understand that I have never been somebody just to sort of randomly get in touch with people. The networking thing has never been my vibe. It's one of my weaknesses, in fact. But with the help of AI, I am actually doing this thing as a thinking partner, thinking through how I'm going to have this conversation and what, that kind of thing. So I'm starting to do things that I've never done before. All right. Then in terms of using AI as an unreliable guide, this is just in the last 6 weeks, and I'll just go through these very quickly. I've downloaded open source LLMs onto my Mac so that I can use them myself, even if the internet goes off, for no money whatsoever. I'm now fine-tuning open source LLMs as well. In the automate area, in the building area, I have set up Google Cloud Console with a Python script. I don't write code with a Python script, so I can create my own bespoke audiobooks out of, for example, deep research prompts. So I ask a deep research prompt, it comes back with a 10,000 thing. I don't want to read it, so I can create a bespoke audiobook for cents, for literally cents. We've moved from Zapier, which is quite expensive, to N8N with our business automation stuff. And N8N is open source and we're self-hosting it. And that has actually inspired me to move more of the software as a service stuff to open source, which is all free. There are only hosting and obviously the maintenance costs. And I've asked my wonderful team member Tim to start doing that as well, and he's the one who's also now tearing his hair out as well. But we're doing these things that we've never done before, right? And then in the audit area, in the kind of external area, I've designed a new UI, a user interface for AI chat that has all kinds of features that I don't understand why normal AI chats don't have them. That's a little bit stuck at the moment because it needs to be kind of actually hosted and everything. At the moment, it's just in Claude, but I've been doing that. It's very exciting. I've created the knowledge forge for all of my IP, and also I am cognitively engineering these AI thinking partners. Now, all of this is to say, like, this isn't like me, really isn't meant to be me boasting. It's actually about me showing you what is possible when you use AI in a different way. Yeah, this is about you, because obviously, while these results are probably a sign of a person with ADHD, the question I really have for you is, this is more of a, showing you real world results, real world examples, to ask you, do they honestly, if you look at all of those things that I and we in my team have been doing, do they signal cognitive decline? Have I just showed you somebody who is declining cognitively? It might be somebody who's completely idiotic, fair enough, but certainly not declining cognitively. And the thing is, here's the important thing, you can do this too. And when I say this, I don't mean what I did, because I'm guessing you don't want to do exactly what I did. But you can do whatever it is you want to do. And to be honest with you, you might not even know what it is you want to do. I mean, I didn't know I wanted to fine-tune LLMs. I didn't know I wanted to create a new way of creating different AI behaviors called cognitive engineering. I didn't know any of this, but AI has helped me. My interactions with AI as both an unreliable guide and a thinking partner has helped me find out, and it's ongoing. Okay. Now, I've been talking for quite a long time, and so I'm not going to show you exactly how today, but I will show you in the future on my podcast. So I'm doing a podcast where I'm just walking and talking, and it's unscripted, unedited, and I'm just telling I've done this, I've done the, so it's like a kind of diary of what I'm doing. So in that, you will start to hear how I'm thinking and what I'm doing. All right, so subscribe to my Substack for that podcast. Put the next YouTube Live in your calendar. That'll be 2 weeks from now, same time, 2 weeks from now, where I'll actually show you specifics of how you can set up this kind of a situation for yourself, where, I'll show you, all right, so here's how to think about the unreliable guide. And here's how to think about, here's how to create the thinking partner. I might not do both in one live stream. It depends how long they go. What often happens when I'm figuring these things out is I think I'm going to do something really big, and then I realize that there's a lot more to say. Okay. So in this one, I was hoping to get to the bit where I actually showed you exactly how, and I realized I actually needed to kind of give you a bit of background first. Okay, so put the next YouTube Live in your calendar. And if you're watching or listening to this and you are a leader in business, education, or tech, or you own your own business, then please get in touch with me direct. Mike@mikemonday.com, mike@mikemonday.com, and we can have a conversation. And depending on what you're up to, we could even, do a quick Zoom, and I could show you what's going on. But the most important thing I want you to take from this is that cognitive decline, brain rot, is not inevitable with persistent AI use. In fact, it's evitable, right? Cognitive growth is possible with persistent AI use. Cognitive expansion, cognitive strength, but only if you are aware of what can happen when you only rely on the AI. So don't do it. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. So onwards and upwards. Cheers, folks.